for his support of the Conservative budget. You're watching CBC News Today. I'm Suhana Marchand. There's been no shortage of bad news recently for Canada's auto industry, but the new federal budget provides some incentives that could create more demand while helping consumers. $12 billion has been set aside to help car dealers and consumers buy new cars. And for more, we turn to the spokesman for the Canadian Automobile Dealers Association. Huw Williams joins me from Ottawa. Huw, is this a shot in the arm, do you think?
Well, it's definitely a boost of adrenaline, and you know, this budget and the provision for automotive leasing and lending financing is good news for Canadian consumers and, of course, for dealers, because it really does provide the liquidity that's been missing as credit markets have been completely frozen in the country.
Help me understand what kind of situation they get out of with this access to $12 billion.
Well, I think it's probably important for your viewers to understand the context. I mean, there's a lot of bad news with respect to the auto industry these days, but the Canadian market has actually been very stable in terms of demand. Last year, we had one of the second or third best years in automotive history. We had a very, very strong year in terms of demand. But what happened with the global financial crisis is we really had a great deal of difficulties for dealers to order and bring cars into their businesses. As you drive by a dealership in Canada, a lot of people don't realize that dealers buy all those cars on the lot and have to finance those through traditional financial institutions.
So you're telling me if they don't sell all those cars, they're on the hook?
That's exactly right, and you know, when we're talking you know, inventory levels in excess of $5 to $10 million, the dealers are going to the banks traditionally to finance that business, and the banks have really just withdrawn from the market. We've heard from the Governor of Bank of Canada about the banks hoarding money, and as a result, dealers were really facing a situation where they wouldn't be able to order more cars to meet the demands from consumers. And Minister Flaherty really stepped up to resolve the situation and inject adrenaline into the arms of the automobile industry.
And is that figure enough to make a dent?
Well, I think what we're going to see here, and this is a you know, positive story for the taxpayer as well. The government's stepping into the marketplace, but they're doing it as a private sector market participant would do. So they'll be turning a profit on this initial investment of $12 billion. And what we're hoping to see is, as the government steps in to thaw out these credit markets, you know, the private industry will start to come back in, and we won't require any more investment from that point on. But I think, you know, the minister's cognizant that they're going to be watching very closely to see the impact of this first initial phase of investment, and then make decisions from there.
If the dealerships are, you know, big winners in all of this, how does the consumer get in on that as well? How do they become winners?
Well, one of the things for Canadian consumers as we look at last year and certainly this year is Canadian consumers already are winners in the Canadian vehicle marketplace. If you take the price of vehicles today and index it with the Stats Canada's level of personal disposable income, cars have never been this affordable in a generation. It's really been 16 years since vehicle prices were this affordable. And so that combined with a lot of pent-up demand in the Canadian marketplace means there's great values out there for shoppers. The other thing we're seeing, of course, you know, when we talk about overcapacity in the worldwide production of automobiles, is that the manufacturers are fighting tooth and nail to get those consumers and offering the best deals ever. So the product lineup is better than ever. Affordability is better than it's been in a generation, and you really have aggressive manufacturer programs trying to woo consumers. So it makes for a positive environment for both consumers and, of course, for dealers.
And how quickly can this all come about to affect change?
Well, we're hoping to move these budget provisions into reality and get the cash flowing as quickly as possible. We had meetings literally with finance officials as the budget was being read by the finance minister, and I think Minister Flaherty has been very, very direct in his desires with finance officials. We need to get this liquidity into the marketplace, because if dealers aren't ordering cars, customers can't buy them, and you know, there's no point producing any if we don't have the whole cycle working together.
Yeah. What does as soon as possible mean, though?
Well, you know, we're hopeful that this injection of capital will be hitting the marketplace in February and April and March.
Okay, so you're working fast on this.
Well, you know, the fact is the economy doesn't have the time to wait around. If we have dealers, and I've spoken to hundreds of dealers across the country on this issue in the last couple of months, that who are telling us if the banks don't start to play ball, they're not going to be in business, despite having excellent track records, great business plans, customer demand. But if they can't bring in new cars, it's a huge problem for the businesses, and of course for the economy as a whole. And I think that's where Minister Flaherty really came to play, is he recognized that there was an economic interest from the country as a whole to keep the economy rolling with this injection of capital.
Huw Williams, maybe we should talk again in a couple of months, see where things stand, but I thank you for taking the time today.
Thanks very much for having me.
All right. Some big names are tackling some big issues at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Prominent politicians, business leaders, and activists are talking politics as well as economics, of course, at this year's Tone Down event. The CBC's Ann McMillan has the latest.
The Schmooze Fest has turned into a gloom fest. That's how a BBC reporter is describing the move.